just for our guest, some background data about Israel. We have around 400,000 hectares that actually are within agriculture activities. From that, half they are related with rainfed. So any potential claim of climate change and drought may affect this area. And the other half is water, is utilized by water. Half of it is fresh water, and the other half is wastewater. So we are almost having also 50% of our agriculture system using wastewater, recycled wastewater, that now also again is not we're seeing the consequences of using too much wastewater, with consequences of increasing saline in soils and increasing also nitrates in fruit production. That is also giving you some red lights of where going on. And now the issue about the desalination processes is an issue that the government has been dealing with it and looking as an alternative solution for the water scarcity. There are now three big plants that our next speaker will lead. They produce, for getting an account, about 500 million cubic meters. That is almost similar to the amount of water that the water authority is extracting from the Lake Kinneret. So, and next year we have a production of 600 millions of cubic meters. So that will come from a secure source that we're talking about agriculture. And for agriculture, it's very important when you open the water tap to know that you're going to have water. And having the sea as an alternative is also a very important issue for agriculture strategy. And we're looking forward for our next speaker, Avraham Tenne, who is a chemical engineer. And he worked for many years as in the chemical industry of the water sector. Since 2005, Mr. Tenne has worked for the Israel Water Authority as the head of the Desalination Division, and he's the chairman of the Water Desalination Administration, the Water Authority. So we're looking forward for Avraham. We met yesterday as well, another event. And
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to share with you exactly what I show OECD last October in Paris, so you'll know everything that we are telling them. First of all, the Water Authority, the Israeli Water Authority, is a new authority in Israel. It's only 7 years old. It started in the year 2000, and so 5 years old, 2007. Before that, we had the Water Commissioner, we had all kinds of other entities, all kinds of other administrations and different ministries in Israel. About 10 different ministries were dealing with water at that time. The Water Authority that was established started by trying to have a goal. What we want to achieve? What do we want to achieve? Where do we want to be in the next decade? And what you see there is something which was new, because till the time, and even today, we are getting most of our water from nature. And we are giving the water away. We are giving the water away regarding the demand. And if we have more water during the winter, we will give more. We have less water, we cut down the agriculture. This is the way we were working for many, many years. We don't want to be there anymore. We want to be in a situation that each and every farmer will be able to design and to plan the future for him, not in the dependence of each year what quota is going to get, but to know exactly what he can do in the next generations. It means there we want to be. Now, Israel is a desert, and don't be mistaken by going and see very nice green areas in Israel, and you should know probably that whenever we become more green in the area, we are evaporating more water from the soil. It's a kind of contradiction that we had to take care of this also. So going into the demand, where is the demand? I'm giving you a forecast for the next 10 years to 2020. We have the same tables until 2050. We have a master plan 40 years ahead We have a lot of scenarios in this master plan. I'm giving an average one. So in 2013, let's say even today, we are using about 2 billion cubic meter per year, about 1.5 billion cubic meter of potable water, drinking water quality, and another 500 million of what we called lower quality, mainly effluent, but some salty water and some storm water that we are using. So in this table, we see only the fresh and drinking water quality. You can see that agriculture is getting about 450, 500 million cubic meter per year in the next years to come. In the past, 15 years ago, agriculture was using more than 1 billion cubic meter per year of fresh drinking water. And this is one of the revolutions that we made in Israel. Then we have the industry, which is a kind of a fixed number. It's growing up very slowly, about 100 million cubic meter per year. The cities, the urban area, this is the growing part. If today we are using, in 2008, we were using about 730 million cubic meter per year in our cities. Today, 4 years later, we are using about 650 by all kinds of means of going down with the demand in the cities. But it will not stay forever. We are growing up. Our increase of population is about 1.8 to 2% every year. And we need to give water also to the newborn ones. So there's going to be an increase of the water demand in the years to come, and we will reach, in 2050, we will reach, instead of 2.5 billion altogether with lower quality of water, in 2050 we are going to reach almost double number. It means if in 2020 we are going to be about 8 million people, in 2050 we are going to be about 14 million people, unless we'll have some disturbance from some neighbors somewhere. Then we have the neighbors. We have treaties with the Palestinians and with Jordan, and the number that we are giving them is not 100, it's 150 million cubic meter per year, every year. This is what we are giving if we have water or we don't have water, if we are cutting down the water from agriculture or not. This amount is a fixed amount, and it's not fixed. For example, the Palestinians are getting every year 4% more, according to a treaty that we have with them. We have the nature. We want to keep some water for the nature also. By a governmental decision, we need to keep in the nature about 50 million cubic meter per year. In the last 4 or 5 years, we barely succeeded to give between 7 to 10 million cubic meter per year. Not because we don't like the nature, but because we need you to open the tap in the morning and to add water there. This is the big problem that we still have in Israel. And then we have the aquifers. And you saw pictures, you show some lecturers show pictures of the lake of Kinneret, the lake of Galilee, showing how down our level of the Kinneret is. And if you want to go in En-Gev, you go to En-Gev, there is very nice steps that are going into the water. They are now about almost 4 meters above the sea level there. We are still missing about 4 meters to come to the upper red line. It means this is the line where we are starting to give water to the Jordan. 4 meters are still missing there. And the same goes to the aquifers. You don't see them, but our aquifers are in the same situation. We are still somewhere on the bottom red lines of the aquifers. We are missing about 2 billion cubic meter in our aquifers in the Lake of Galilee, only in order to be in an optimization line where we will be if we will have another 7 years of drought years as we were facing the last 7 years in Israel. So this is the demand. Now on the other end, we have the resources. And the resources in this number is not the amount of water that goes into the Jordan River. This is the amount of water, this is the refill in all our aquifers in Israel. We don't have here only the refill in the eastern aquifer of the mountain aquifer, but all the rest, what we have and what we are using in Israel, these are the average. This is the average. 1.17 billion cubic meter per year. 8 years ago, 150 years ago, we read very nice books of very nice hydrologists at that time that were talking about 3 billion cubic meter per year, 1.8 billion cubic meter per year, 1.5 billion cubic meter per year. These are the right numbers. This is the average. And unfortunately, when we are in a series of drought years, we are below the average. Even today, with the very nice rain we had the last 2 months, with our refill, we are still below the average. This is our situation. So this is what we have. It's just an example. This is the forecast. This is the actual number we received in 2008. In 1 year, we missed more than 500 million cubic meter per year. 1 year. So we need to do steps. We need to do all kinds of steps. And the desalination is not the first step, it's the last step. And desalination is not a goal, it's just a mean in order to close the gap. But we are doing other steps in parallel, and I'll talk about it. But anyhow, we want to be in a situation that by the end of 2013, beginning of 2014, we'll be able to close the gap on the amount that we are using each and every year. We are not going to save water then. It means it will not allow us to fill the aquifers, but at least be able to be in a situation that we have enough water, not to take more from the nature than we need, not to overpump ourselves. So this is where we want to be. I'll come back to it in a minute. Now, in the past, we had a wonderful technology, since you are people that are talking also in technology, so most of them knows the technology. Moses, our leader, our ancient leader, had a very wonderful, very good stick. He needed water, just hit the rock, he received water. We are still looking for the stick, so if everyone sees it, we like to have it. Unfortunately, we don't have it anymore. We need to do some other things in Israel. So what are we doing? The first thing that we are doing, and we are doing a lot on this matter, is water saving. And when we are talking about water saving, we are talking first of all about education. We are giving lectures to the kindergarten, the elementary school children, high school children, then students in university, to be in a position, a situation that the next generation will be adults that knows how to treat water. I can tell you, when I was in October in Paris, and Paris doesn't have a problem of water, I found myself in the hotel room. When I brush my teeth, I close the tap in the hotel, and each and everyone that visited Paris knows that water runs in the streets. This is the way they are cleaning the street, running water there. So the first thing is education. The second thing that we are doing there in this matter, and the first thing, a lot of PR, a lot of appearance on TV. Everybody remembers the nice girls that were becoming dry in the TV because we really didn't have water. We are doing a lot of things. We are fighting against the water losses in pipes. In Israel today, our average water loss in piping is about 10%. This is a wonderful number. If you compare it to our neighbors, Jordan, Syria, it's about 40%. But not only them. Take London. London, about 40% water losses. London built a desalination plant because they don't have enough drinking water. Amazing, London. So water leakage, 10%, but we want to cut it down. It's still a huge amount. Then we are doing a lot of work, all kinds of genetic engineering and other things, to have some kinds of plantation and other methods to get not only the agriculture, but also the private gardening, to get plants that use less water than we need. Irrigation systems. The drip irrigation was invented in Israel. Drip irrigation is very important in Israel. Israel is using more than 90% is drip irrigated. In the United States, we don't reach 5%. I visited Arizona last May. I was asked to tell them, why can we build desalination plants and they can't do it? I went there, I drove through the desert, and what I saw was amazing. The farmers there, the irrigation is flood irrigation, the same that it's done in the rice fields in China. Go to Arizona, go down in Tucson, drive through the desert, you'll see amazing things. From the Colorado, they open a gate and they flood the area. No drip irrigation or nothing, because they don't pay even 1 cent for the water. Not only in Jordan they don't pay, in the United States they don't pay. And again, this is a problem. We pay in Israel. In Israel we are paying now the realistic price, and it's very high. It's almost $3 to $4 per cubic meter what we are paying in Israel. But this is another way that we were able to cut down the demand. And I was talking about water tariffs, and there is a huge debate in the public, why do we have to pay so much? The desalination is only between 50 cents to $1, even less, 50 to 70 cents in Israel. Why do we need to pay $4 at home? They just forget that this is not the only thing that we are paying. We have to transport the water. We have to pump the water up to Jerusalem or to Tzfat or to other areas. We need to treat the water. We need to maintain the piping. We need to treat the wastewater. All of it is in this price, and we need to pay for it in order to be able to save the water. I'm just running, and of course, the wastewater. This is the second step. After saving water, the second thing is using the wastewater, using the effluent. The effluent for us is another aquifer. This is an aquifer which is a stable aquifer. We have it all year long. This is something, it's not the rain that we have only in the summer. This is something that we are producing yearly. We are using now in Israel about 80%. 80% of our effluent goes to agriculture. The second country that is doing the same, Spain, is now reaching about 17%, 1.7. The United States itself, altogether, is about 1.5%. California is about 5%. There we are. We are trying to teach our neighbors, Jordan and the Palestinians, by giving them seminars. 2 months ago, we just finished another seminar of people from our neighbors to teach them how to use the effluent in their own premises. So this is another thing that we are doing, and we want to reach in about 5 to 7 years, we want to reach 90%, which is probably the maximum we can reach by getting the effluent there. And with all the problems that may occur in the future, we are doing it, we'll continue doing it, and we'll monitor it and look after it to see it. But then, this is not enough. And only because this is not enough, we went into producing new means of water. And we have two resources of raw material or raw water that we can desalinate them. One is brackish water, salty water, mainly inland, in the Arava and other places in the Negev, in the desert. So this is part of what we are doing. We have now about 45 million cubic meter per year of brackish water desalination all over Israel. We are going to reach in about 5 years from now, 4 or 5 years from now, we're going to reach about 60 to 65 million cubic meter per year of brackish water desalination. Then, again, it's not enough. Still, the gap is still too high, and that's why we went into the seawater desalination, in the large-scale seawater desalination, because we had seawater desalination for many years in Eilat. We had a small plant of about 2 to 3 million cubic meter per year. We still have such a plant in a different technology of seawater desalination. But to go into large-scale desalination, the decision was made only about 12 years ago. To go into desalination, I'll talk about it a little bit later, we need space. We need area. Desalination plants takes space. Not as it's published, it doesn't take space from the coast. Most of our plants are far away from the coast. Our new plants are about 2.5 kilometers eastern to the coast, but we need the space, and for the time being we have a national master plan where we can allocate desalination plants in different areas of Israel. This plan consists only about possibility of about 750 million cubic meter of desalination. So we are now running a new master plan in order to be able to have enough space for the next 50 years. This is something that we are doing. All these projects, I'm not going into it, but most of these large-scale desalination projects are BOT projects. It means it's a public partnership project involving the private sector. They are investing the money, they are operating it, and after 25 years it becomes the governmental property. It's like a leasing project. You can see here the prices. The prices of desalination varies from about 52 cents in the new Sorek plant to about 0.7, 0.8 dollar in the older plants. A word on the quality of the water. When we are talking about drinking water today, our drinking water, the average chlorides in the drinking water is about 270, 280 milligram of chloride in the water. Then the addition of salts in the city brings us to effluent with about 400, maybe 450 milligram per liter of chlorides in agriculture, which is a huge amount of salt in agriculture. By going into desalination and going out from these plants with about 20 to 30 milligram per liter of chlorides, that's all. We are going to be in a position that the effluent will have less than 200 milligram per liter of chlorides. And there are very interesting research that were done that if you are going to the field with less than 200 milligram per liter, you get a better yield of the crops, of the plantation, with about 15%, without adding any fertilizer. Only by the fact that we are reducing the amount of chlorides, which it means we are reducing the amount of sodium in the irrigation system. Just an interesting thing to see the political part of all of it. You can see this is a graph of the governmental decisions regarding the desalination. And you can see it started only in the year of 2000. There was the first decision. We need at that time a decision of two ministers, the Treasury Minister and the Infrastructure Minister. At that time, Baiga Shochat was the Treasury Minister and the Infrastructure Minister at the same time. And he made a decision. Otherwise, maybe today I would still stay here and apologize why we don't have desalination. But the government decision went up. This was 50 million cubic meter per year. 2002, the decision was to go up to 400 million cubic meter per year. But then the year of 2002 and 2003 was rainy, a little bit more than average. And you can see they start to cut down by decisions to cut down the amount of desalination. 2006, we started already the series of drought years. This decision was to cut down desalination to 260 million cubic meter at all. That's it, in this number. And this stage we only started to produce desalinated water. Only in 2007, after the Water Authority was established and decided to cut the linkage between the governmental budget and the investment in the water sector by increasing the price of water, and this is going to be the base for every investment in the water sector, we succeeded to have the right decisions of the governmental decisions, and the last decision is to reach 600 million cubic meter by the end of 2013 and 750 by the end of 2020. How do we do it? Today we have already 3 plants in operation. We have the Ashkelon plant that started as a 100 million cubic meter per year, which was at that time when it started its operation in 2005, it was the largest reverse osmosis plant in the world. It was the biggest one. Today this plant is producing 120 million, Ashkelon. The second one, and of course, all our plants are with reverse osmosis technology, and maybe you know that the person who really started with this technology and brought it to us, to all of us, Professor Sidney Laub, an American Jew who made immigration to Israel in the late 60s. He was really the one who started it. Unfortunately, he didn't write a patent on it, but he is really the father of reverse osmosis, that today more than 60% of the desalination in the world is with reverse osmosis. The second plant, Palmachim, started at 30 million cubic meter per year. It's now producing 45, 50 million, and we are now increasing the capacity to 90 million. This is being done now. The third plant started in Hadera. Ashkelon started 2005, Palmachim 2007, Hadera started in 2009. Is a 100 million cubic meter per year, but it's already producing now 130, and he is now the largest plant in operation in the world. Now Algeria is starting to operate a plant which is going to be about 140 million, and we have now the Sorek plant, which is going to be our next plant, is going to be 150 million. You know, we have a hummus war between us and Lebanon, so in the desalination we have also something like this. And beside Sorek, that is going to operate beginning of next year, we have another project in Ashdod, another 100 million cubic meter per year that's going to produce water by the end of 2013. So today we have about 300 million cubic meter per year of seawater desalination and another 40 to 45 million of brackish water desalination altogether, about 340 million cubic meter per year already running in the pipes. And just to maybe a small mistake was made here, we are pumping from the Kinneret in the last years only 150 million. This is what we are pumping out of the Kinneret. So by producing this amount of water, we succeeded probably to build 2 new Kinneret in Israel. And with the new plants by the end of 2013, with an addition of brackish water desalination, we will reach about 660 million cubic meter per year of desalinated water. So at that time, we will have the amount of water not only to close the gap, but also to start and pump less from the Kinneret and from the aquifers with an amount of about 200 million cubic meter per year, and will allow us to build up the storage that we are missing for many years in these areas. Just a word, in order to be able to send this water everywhere, we have a national grid. Fortunately for us, we have a national grid that was built 50 years ago. And at that time, this was the only means to get water wherever we need in Israel. So this national grid that started in 2054, 2055, is all still now working, but the big problem is that it was built up as a telescopic pipe from the southern part to the desert. Now today, when we are going into desalination from the west, we are now doing a huge project of changing the directions in the national grid to the west, to the south and to the north. It means we are changing direction in the national grid. This project alone is a project of about 15 to 20 billion shekel for the next 10 years. I'm just jumping on all these interesting things. Energy. Just a word of energy.
Wasn't it smarter to build the desalination
in the north? It's a very nice question. We are trying for 3 years. First of all, you build desalination where the demand is. Most of our population doesn't sit in the north. Unfortunately for us, it sits near Tel Aviv. So there is the major capacity. We are trying to find for 3 years a location in the north, in the western Galilee. 3 years. We didn't succeed to find 100 dunam in Israel. I would like to get all the assistance we have in this matter, but it's not so simple to find 100 dunam in Israel, and the big problem is that nobody wants to have it in his backyard. You know, NIMBY. So this is a huge problem. Everybody wants water, but build it in the neighbor's garden. A huge problem. Energy, and everybody says that desalination is a huge amount of energy. So let us make things clear. In Israel, not only in Israel, the same in the United States, about 40% of the electrical energy goes to air conditioning. More than 40%. All the water sector in Israel is today about 6%, 6.5%. All the water sector. If we'll cut back 1 hour of average air condition, home air condition, that's enough energy to produce 1 cubic meter of desalinated water, which is enough for 1 week for us to live. 1 week per person, 1 hour of air conditioning. So if you want to look where the coin is, the light is in the air conditioning, not in desalination. Cut a little bit back the air conditioning. We have more than enough energy, but it's not enough. We are doing several things that I'm not going into it. We're going into renewable energy. We're going to use natural gas. We have already one desalination plant with a natural gas power plant, which also helps. Again, I'll not run into this. I just want to see. Sorry, the last word I want to talk is about real environment. Usually I give environment more than 1 minute, but here I'll cut down. Environment. Okay. Environment. The desalination plant, of course, has an impact on the environment. Mostly is the energy. Mostly, of course, you need energy to operate such a plant, but we are also sending concentrate into the sea. We are sending concentrate. The concentrate that you are sending to the sea is about twice the average concentration in the sea. It goes into the sea. It has a huge dilution effect. We have a huge debate with all the environmental guys in Israel. We believe that the effect is not so big. We are monitoring it all the time, not we. The Israeli government and the Israeli, all kind of Israeli entities are monitoring it. We do see a dilution area where the dilution zone where the concentration is a little bit higher. And I'm talking a little bit higher is between 5 to 2% more than the average salt in the sea. It's about, again, each huge desalination plant, this mixing zone is about 200 dunam, 200,000 square meter. That's it. It means when we reach 1 billion cubic meter of desalination, we will have an influence of about 2 square kilometers. That's it, out of few 1,000 square kilometers in our seashore. But this is something that we need to monitor, we need to take care of. We don't know yet enough on this matter, and this is something that we have to take care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avraham. I'm very happy that you have been considering at least 1 minute the environmental consequence of the long-term effects of desalination. This is one of the main concerns of the environmental groups. But we have time for one question.
You want me to ask a question?
Yes.
How long will these times last, and what will be the cost of the building once the government will get permission of the
Okay, these plants need to last as long as possible. After 25 years, when the government is going to get them, they are going to get it in the best way of operational situation. It means we're going to get plants that are maintained and operated in the best way, and we are controlling it all the time. This is part of what the WDA is doing, is controlling the way that the private sector is working in order that when we will get it, we'll get a very good thing. But in 20, 25 years, technology can change, all kinds of things can change. We'll need to do other things, but I believe that these plants, as they work, they will still work. Look, the reverse osmosis is a new technology. The new technology is 40 years old, 50 years old. In the water sector, the technology doesn't change quickly. So we believe that in the next 30, 40, 50 years, we will still have reverse osmosis technology as the right one. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Moshe.